Dragon Hopper. This action-adventure game was to originally be released for Nintendo's biggest failure of a console, the Virtual Boy. The story is about the protagonist, Doran, running away from his family, only to realize they've been jailed by the Prime Minister, and thus, he must traverse the 7 worlds and cast the spells to free his family. It's probably the most complex plot on the Virtual Boy. Gameplay-wise, not much about this game is known, as the only concrete information gathered from screenshots is that the game is played in a top-down perspective. Obviously, the Virtual Boy's demise ended up killing this game as well, though there was a prototype shown at Space World 95 and E3 96. That prototype is unfortunately lost today, though. Best Animated Feature Reactions. At the 74th and 79th Academy Awards ceremonies, a novel and interesting thing was tried, which was to give animated segments showing characters' reactions to their movie being announced, and whether or not their movie won the award. These novel animations never appeared again after the 79th ceremony, and so there were only 6 of these animations made. Currently, the only ones found are for Jimmy Neutron and Cars, with the other 4, including films such as Shrek and Happy Feet, completely lost, though you can get your hands on a few screenshots of these lost animations. Hempire. Darman is known on YouTube for his awful attempts at heartwarming skits, but this wasn't his first attempt at entering the business world or the film world. Hempire was Dar's attempt at film combining with a business venture, and based on the title, you could probably guess what this business was. The company, called WeGrow, would supply tools to people attempting to grow marijuana for medicinal purposes, and the lost pilot Hempire was about this business venture. It's not clear whether this pilot was to be scripted or in more of a documentary style, as the synopsis isn't known beyond the fact that it was about the company WeGrow. Since the pilot never turned into a show on network TV, no one in the general public ever got to see it, meaning it's been lost since 2011.
This is a new kind of memory card, and it plugs in there. The card can store customized game or controller settings, and you'll be able to save information on an individual's style of gameplay. So in theory, you'll be able to play against your friends even when they're not there. At least we think that's it. Our instruction book had been translated directly from the
Kirby Bowl 64. While Kirby's Air Ride is a known GameCube game, it originally started out as a Nintendo 64 game, and in the early stages of the 64's development, it had a different concept and name entirely. Originally conceived as a sequel to the SNES game Kirby's Dream Course, this game was to be a 3D evolution of that concept. At the time Kirby Bowl 64 was being shown off and advertised, the Nintendo 64 wasn't even called the Nintendo 64, as the game was being developed and tweaked early in the console's life cycle. At 1995's Shoshinkai Trade Show, there was even footage of Kirby Bowl shown off. Because the concept evolved into a new game entirely and ended up being released on an entirely different system, Kirby Bowl 64 became lost to time. Only a small amount of footage exists today as evidence of the concept.
It's curtain time for the show-offs. And here they are.
Show-offs. Show-offs was a short-lived game show that aired in 1975. It was one of the many Goodson-Todman game shows from the era, among the likes of Password and Match Game. The game was a charades-like game with teams of 2 celebrities and 1 commoner contestant, though as the show went on there were slight tweaks to the gameplay. The show's planned host died days before taping was set to begin, and the ratings weren't great when the show finally did air, thus leading to the show's run only lasting half a year. Although there were quite a few episodes in this time, totaling over 100, only 3 have been preserved, as ABC allegedly wiped the tapes. As a result, very little footage can be found online today. Space Cats. Space Cats was an obscure cartoon live-action hybrid show from the early 90s. The plot is actually rather complex, centering on a race of alien cats who visit Earth in search of good cat food, with each episode being about the cats being given a different mission or task to complete. The show never released on home media, and because of this, combined with the lack of popularity when it was airing, the available footage is currently a patchwork of various VHS recordings. Despite this, there has been a lot of work done to preserve the show, and currently only 3 full episodes are missing. Powerpuff, the 2021 live-action reboot. In 2016, Cartoon Network released a reboot of its popular early show, The Powerpuff Girls, and most people didn't like it. Apparently, in 2021, they didn't learn their lesson, as the show was planned to have a live-action reboot on the CW that year. The idea was to fit the concept of the show into an adult demographic, which didn't work because mostly the show would have shifted to more slice-of-life stories, which misses the entire point of the concept. There was a pilot made, and test groups did not receive it well at all. It's believed that the pilot could be passed around on the internet as we speak, but it hasn't surfaced in any public way. Wisconsin. This short was created by the late Chris Moeller, who passed away 9 years ago. Produced by Moeller and his production company Dark Bunny Productions, was a 3-minute short entitled Wisconsin. The plot is as follows, straight from Mueller himself. It was a quiet evening on a farm in Wisconsin. The ornery farm dog is awakened by a noise in the pantry and goes to investigate, only to discover a purple, tentacled monstrosity stealing a box of candy bars. The dog chases the startled alien through the farm and corners it, forcing it to surrender the candy bars and beam back to the mothership. Just what the hell are those aliens up to anyway? As the short was never released in a full completed version, it's unclear if one ever existed, though an unfinished black and white version of the short has surfaced online. IMG Episode 13. Vsauce has a reputation as one of the best and longest lasting educational channels on YouTube, but few know of one of the channel's earliest shows, IMG. Essentially, the show would showcase some of the internet's most interesting or funny images from the previous week. If you look at the playlist for this show on YouTube, you'll notice a gap between episodes 12 and 14. Episode 13 is nowhere to be found, even on Wayback Machine, as even trips back to the Vsauce channel as it was in early 2011 show episode 13, though looking at the IMG playlist today, the video is privated. Why the video was set to private is a mystery.
What do you call cartoon stars who have become legendary icons? You might call them the kings and queens of cartoons. Well, in an effort to save time, we call them Boomer Royalty.
So what? Who cares? We're doing it how we like. I'm singing into my mic. A special underwater mic. Who's gonna save the world? Who's gonna save the day?
There's a lot of nostalgia contained in this entry. Boomerang was, and still is, Cartoon Network's secondary channel for retro and retro-adjacent cartoons. And the bumpers with their unique style and charm from the 2000 to 2015 era are seriously some of the best conceived in TV history. In fact, the bumpers themselves were often as interesting or cool as the shows being aired. But because it's a catalog of bumpers from an era lasting 15 years, it's not exactly a shock that it hasn't all been preserved. While a lot of these can be found with a quick YouTube search, the ones you see on YouTube are not at all exhaustive, and so it's up to the internet's most diligent VHS finders to complete this search.